Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Raneisha, and I thought today I would do a law school advice video on like how to study, manage your time, and about taking notes and all that kind of stuff. I got a comment a couple weeks ago asking for this, so I thought I would film it today. I was just like writing out and trying to go back in time and like look through all of my study materials and see how exactly I did study, because I did change it up depending on the classes I took. I can never stick to just like really one study method, because every topic, it seems like my brain just wanted to do something different to be able to actually memorize things. So I thought I would discuss that and just like some of the tips I have for how I went about my whole study routine, especially during finals. But yeah, so without further ado, let's just jump into it. And I will be giving you guys some advice on how I studied throughout law school. And again, this is just how I personally studied during law school. There are plenty of videos and tips on the internet of how to do it. I took inspiration from other people's videos. I took inspiration from my friends when they would tell me how they were studying and stuff. And yeah, I just collected as much data as possible about how people studied, and then I just took from that what I wanted and developed my own study routine. So yeah, use this as a tool for whenever it's time for you to study for exams or anything, if you find this helpful. And yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to discuss is going to be what you should do during your lectures. So if you're in law school or you're in a master's program or anything, if you're in med school, go to a med school video because they're completely different. But if you are a law student, you're doing your lectures, I would say make sure you have a program. If your professor allows you to take notes on your laptop, I've had professors that only would let us do handwritten notes, but I've also had professors that were okay with us using laptops. Have whatever program you like to take notes on. I loved using OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, because it automatically saved everything. I used to use Word for in-class lectures, but one day, I don't know what happened, all of my notes from one of my classes just deleted. And I know that Microsoft Word also has the automatic save, but somehow I didn't have it on. And I usually just save anyway, like my fingers are kind of programmed to always do the Command S thing, but for some reason that day they didn't, and I lost all my notes, and it was so many notes. Luckily I had good friends that gave me their notes for that day. But yeah, after that I just switched to OneNote because it just automatically saved everything. But yeah, so I guess I can pull up a little example of like some of my notes from OneNote. But the notes, yeah, OneNote was amazing. I loved it. I would just type up whatever I needed during lecture, but specifically during lectures, I did not try to type everything that my professor was saying. I've had professors that have used PowerPoints. I had professors that just talked at us the entire time, and I had professors that we would really just have discussions, and you'd have to pick and pull from him for them just telling stories about their experience as a lawyer, and see what from that information I needed to actually know for our final or our midterms and stuff like that. Yeah, during lecture, when you're taking notes, try to take them shorthand and use things like abbreviations, like for whenever we're talking and they would say like jurisdiction or something, or jurisdiction would be on the board, I just type in JXN, and it's just like a little short abbreviation, and it would save so much time typing. But yeah, definitely take shorthand notes, simplify whatever the professor is talking about or whatever is on the board or on the PowerPoint. Simplify in your own words. I used to never understand what they meant by like in your own words, and then till I would be in lecture and it's like the way my professor would word something made no sense to me, but then I would think about it for like maybe a second or two and be like, oh, so this is what they mean. Or someone would ask a question for them to like clarify it, and then that rewording would make more sense to me, and that would be what I would type down. So yeah, simplify your notes, put it in your own words, whatever is going to make the most sense to you and whatever is going to make it stick in your head. I highly recommend putting down in your notes. It's going to be a lifesaver. I also recommend if your professor is like repeating something over and over again, or they're putting emphasis on a certain topic or a certain piece of information, definitely write that down, highlight it, star it, whatever, bold it, put next to it, professor said this a lot of times, something like that, so you know, because in my experience, whatever the professor harps on the most is what's end up being on my final exams. And if you're in law school, you know your finals are usually like either 100% of your grade for that one class, or like 80 to maybe like 60 to 80% of your grade. So whatever your professor is emphasizing, write down. And if every class is different, but some classes you do have to remember certain cases. If there's a case that helps you remember a certain topic that you're learning, I recommend like doing the case, like writing the case, and then just do little bullet points of what's important about the case and then the rule for the case. Because really, at the end of the day, that's kind of all you need to know. And that's my opinion. That's all you need to know about cases. You don't need to know all 10 pages of the case. You really just need to know the meat of the facts, whatever rule that comes from it, and the holding. That's really it. So, but I could do a whole separate video on case briefings. Yeah, so we'll leave that alone for right now. That is everything I would do during class. And then like going into study tips now, I would say everyone, it is very important in law school to have an outline for all your classes, especially your first year of law school, like having an outline for your Civ Pro, contracts, constitutional law. I'm missing something. Evidence, real property, all that stuff. It's important to have an outline, and I would suggest keeping up your outline, if not daily, like after your classes for that day, at least weekly. I say daily because all of the notes that you come up with every single day can add up, especially at the end of the week, and it can seem very overwhelming to put into your outline. So kind of keeping up as soon as your classes are over for the day, or if you have breaks in between your classes, just writing down whatever you think is important and putting that in your outline will be very helpful, because the last thing you want to do is be trying to type up your outline a week before you have an exam or something, and then you're gonna have like hundreds of pages of notes by the end of the semester. So keep up with your outlines, and if you need any explanations on like how to formulate a outline or anything, leave a comment down below and I would try to help you with that, because that was one of my struggles in law school. I did not know what an outline was. Naively, not even naively, just I didn't know what it was. Just wasn't something as a psych major in undergrad, and that just was not something for me to really have to do. But yeah, if you need help with that, let me know. Another study tip. So there are many different ways to study. People use the Padorma method, where like you study for 30 minutes, take a 10-minute break. Some people can just sit at the desk for hours on end and just put headphones on, or just have something playing in their background and just study for hours and get everything done. I have done a mix of kind of all of it. I've done the Padorma method, but I've done my own version where sometimes I'll study for like an hour straight, take a 30-minute break. Sometimes I've just been able to sit at my desk and study until the sun goes down, if it's like depending on what time I study. And it really just depends on you. One thing I've really found that made me feel better when I was studying is making a study log. I'll put an example right now. I would make a study log and I would just like map out what day I was going to do. I was going to study for certain subjects, and I would color code it in an Excel sheet, and then I would have a total amount of, I would have a column that said the total amount of time that I ended up studying. And for that, I would just go on my phone and just go to the stopwatch app, and I would just time myself, and like it'd be a way for me like not to be on my phone, so I put my phone away and then I would just study. And whenever I felt like a break, I would go to my phone, pause the time or lap it, and that would just like let me know how long I was actually studying for. And I don't know why, but it just made me feel a lot better when it came to studying, because I was mapping out my time, I was logging my time. So by the time like my tests come, I would know, okay, I studied for this amount of time. I did everything I could to prepare. There's nothing else to do. Let's leave it to rest. You're gonna be okay. It'll just be a way to calm my anxiety, really. So yeah, that's some of my study tips. I've used flashcards. People love flashcards. Flashcards are very helpful. For me, it was only depending on the subject. I think I only used flashcards for my white collar crimes class, and then for Florida constitutional law. Those were just the classes that I found that I needed to really kind of memorize everything, because those were mostly essay based exams for me during my finals. Yeah, so like my white collar crimes, that was just all essay based. I had to write, I think it was 4 essays in 4 hours. So yeah, that was just all memorization, and I had to memorize some cases as well for that. So yeah, I just did flashcards. Recommend, especially for law students, do practice exams and practice questions. Your professors usually will tell you where to find that information, or your librarian at your school. Every school has their own set of information. They might have like actual exams from that professor. It just depends on the professor. And then there are resources like Quimby is a good place to go for case briefing, to like understand a case, but it's also a good place. They have video lectures which can explain a concept very, very simple to you. So Quimby's a good resource. Really just figure out if your professor prefers a certain author over another, or if they prefer a certain format over another. But yeah, your school, it'll depend on your school, and it'll depend on your professor. So now let's talk about managing your time. I would say for me, the most important thing for me during law school was keeping up with my readings, and it can seem very overwhelming. Honestly, before you start school, you have to kind of read ahead, because on the first day you might already feel like you're behind if you haven't done the readings yet. So yeah, keep up with your readings. Write down all of your assignments down. Make an Excel sheet, do it on Notion, print out your syllabus, and highlight whenever things are due, and cross out whenever you've finished them. But yeah, keep up with your assignments, keep up with your due dates. Your professors will probably change due dates as the semester goes on. Just make sure you write everything down, because when you start to get really busy in the semester, those due dates and everything can sneak up on you. It's gonna feel like you have to study every single second of the day. I promise you don't. I also was someone who, I would hear that advice from people saying, oh, set aside time for to have time to enjoy and do things that you love. And I kind of ignored it, especially my first year. But it's very important to set aside time and not get so wrapped up in studying all the time, because you're gonna burn out. You're gonna burn out. It's gonna happen. It happens to all of us. It is a very bad feeling, and it can just be very debilitating. I would just set aside, I think Sundays was my day that I usually would set aside time to really do nothing for school. Sometimes it would change from like Friday or Saturday or Sunday. It just depended on the month I was gonna have, or whatever I had planned to do. But yeah, I would set aside time. I would go out to eat with friends. Yes, you're in school, but you also still have to live your life. You still have to enjoy your life. You don't want to hate what you're doing because you're giving up all the fun things that are happening. Like, you don't have to miss every single birthday party. You don't have to miss if your friends are getting married or their bridal showers or stuff like that. You just have to strategically manage your time. You have to make sure you're keeping up with assignments, like I said, mapping everything out on your calendar and stuff, keeping up with your dates, and just make priorities. I know people that would miss class because they wanted to have a mental health day, or people who would miss class because they were going out of town or they wanted to go to their friend's wedding, but they were keeping up with their grades. They made sure that they were keeping up with their studies. They'd bring their study materials with them when they traveled. I did it when I went to go see Beyonce in 2023. I missed a day of school, and here I am. I graduated. So it's about prioritizing. It's about making time for what's important to you. and remembering that you're going to be upset if you're going to miss out on certain things, but also don't put school on the complete back burner, because it is also something important for you. It's something you worked hard for to get into, and you are still working towards your JD, but don't give up everything in your life for the sake of school, if that makes sense. And yeah, I think that's it for my study tips, managing time, how I kind of did it during law school. I hope this video was helpful. I hope any of these tricks help any of you, not tricks, but like little tips help you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video if you made it to this point. And if you have any more further questions, comment them down below. I will try to get to all of them. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in my next video.